Have you ever owned a lens that can do this? Neither have I, so let's talk about it. So a couple of weeks ago, Peggy reached out to me and asked if I would like to try one of their lenses, and well, here it is because I said yes. It's a 50mm f1.4 tilt lens by TTArtisan, and well, this thing it's solid as a rock. It's built, it's all metal, it's all glass. It has a fair amount of weight to it. There's a metal lens mount at the back. There's about 300 aperture blades in there, so at night the bokeh is, well, it's really, really round and really, really pretty. I quite like it, and you can see with this photograph I took at night with the bridge. If I show you the out of focus areas first, you'll notice that there are some stars in the out of focus areas. Now that's not something I have ever seen before, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, and I quite liked the way it looked. But you can see the party trick here in this image with the depth of field just on the tower of the bridge. Either side of the bridge, both sides are out of focus, the tower is just in focus. And how do you do that, you may be wondering? Well, you tilt the lens, you rotate the base. There are two locking nuts on this lens. There is one main locking nut here which tilts it, and there's a second screw there. You twist that and the full base rotates around 360 degrees. And that's where the party trick of the miniaturized look and all the fun depth of field stuff comes into play with this. So this lens here features a declicked aperturing, okay, so it goes from f1.4 all the way through to f16, but there are no clicks if I rotate it. No clicks. It's not something I am personally a fan of. I like to feel the clicks as you go through the stops, but some people like this for video. For me, I'm not a fan of declicked apertures, but it works just as well, and there's a fair amount of resistance to that, so you're not going to knock it and accidentally change your exposure values by mistakes. Now, talking about the aperture, it is an f1.4 maximum aperture, and as you can see from this video, f1.4 it's extremely soft. There is a very large loss of contrast, but as soon as you start stopping down towards 2.8, you can see there is some sharpness regained, and the contrast has just about started to come back. But this lens really does start to perform when you get down towards f4. You can see there's a lot more sharpness here, and the contrast it's really, really nice. And by 5.6, you've got a really nice lens that's usable across the range from corner to corner, center sharpness. Like I say, the contrast is all there. This is just a comparison of all four of the shots, so you can just see in the top corner there that it's nice and soft at f1.4, but you go towards the bottom corner, the other end, f5.6, perfectly usable video. Now, another party trick of this lens, because the lens can rotate 360 degrees on its base, if you throw this thing at full tilt, 45 degrees, you can create a medium format faked panorama. What I'm saying is, you can create a panorama that you essentially just twist the lens around, it goes around in a circle, but by doing that you can take a panoramic photograph. Now, the panoramas work well, they stitch okay. The problem I found with it was because the depth of field with the tilt lens is a little bit off and skew with, and there's a little bit, I'll call it artsy in a way. The areas of the panorama, the focus is all over the place. It may be the way that I took it, it may be the way that it's been stitched, but I couldn't find a way to do this without creating some really funky in and out of focus textures. So just be warned. I imagine if you stopped it down, say f11, and tried to get front to back focus, you may have better results than I've had here. I think this was shot at f4 off of the top of my head, but it really does create some funky textures. But trial and error, I may be able to perfect this a little bit later on down the line, but it is just one to have in the back pocket in case you don't have an ultra wide angle lens. You can do panoramas just by rotating this lens. Now, another little neat thing about this is, because I'm using it on micro four thirds, it is available as a full frame lens, and I think that is where it will maybe shine more as a tilt lens. It's great for architecture, this kind of stuff, but at 100mm field of view on the micro four thirds cameras, you're not going to be shooting an awful lot of architecture. But what I did find was it worked quite nice as a portrait lens. Now, this photograph of Laura, a very unwilling volunteer of mine, the new lady in my life, I will add, It was shot at f4. Now, as far as f4 goes on Micro Four Thirds, I've not seen the amount of background blur as I have in this photograph. It's a really fun lens to use for portraits. As I say, the 100mm field of view. I rotated the focus across her eyes, so literally just her eyes are in focus and everything else dissolved into autofocus. But I think as a portrait lens for Micro Four Thirds, this thing could probably have some uses. Now, speaking of Laura, she bought me a gift. Winter is coming up. It's getting a little bit colder. And she knows I like hats. I like the North Face brand. It's a very outdoorsy brand and it's kind of who I am. So she bought me a gift. A really thoughtful gift. It's a very special gift. And I said that I would wear it in a YouTube video, so... Well, it's pink. Yes, I'm now wearing it out in public. So we're coming to the city centre. I've met up with Dave. I'm going to go for a walk around and just see what this tilt lens can do. I really want to see how it looks. I'm kind of thinking of this as a 50mm 1.4. I've never had a 50mm 1.4, and all the tilt fun that you can do with it, well, that's just an added bonus tonight. So let's go for a walk round at night and see what we can do with the 50mm f1.4 tilt lens. So, what are my final thoughts on this 50mm f1.4 tilt lens from TTArtisan? Well, f4 is extremely usable. It's a fun lens to use if you like taking artistic photographs. I imagine it would work great as a street lens, possibly woodland as well. But it really shines at night at f1.4, tilted around to 45 degrees, rotated to 90, so you can really get that miniature effect and you can really grab those special little, this is the area of focus that I want you to look at. I really found this lens works fantastically at night. I'm not sure I would use it during the day, but I think at night, f1.4, maximum tilt, going for some artistic looks, I think this is where you would go for it. It's a good little buy if you want one. I promise you, it is a fun lens. If you really want to go out and buy a fun lens, go grab one of these. I'll leave a link in the description. You can go buy one yourself if this is something that you feel like you'd like to use. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Review videos of lenses are not something I often do on this channel. It's something I may look into a little bit more as time goes on. A lot of people have asked about the gear that I use, so we may have a look at that in the future. So until next time, I'm going to love you and leave you and say peace and goodbye.